Is my baby growing okay? Using height and weight charts to tell. Parenthood is a journey filled with joy, wonder, and a healthy dose of worry. One of the most common concerns that parents have is whether their baby is growing normally and healthily. Growth is an indicator of a baby's overall well-being and development, and it can also reveal potential problems or risks. Therefore, parents need to monitor and track their baby's growth and compare it with the expected standards and norms. One of the tools that can help parents do this is the growth chart, which is a graphical representation of the growth patterns of babies of the same age and sex. Today, we will explain growth charts, how to use them, and what they can tell us about our baby's growth. A comprehensive look at baby growth metrics. As a parent, keeping an eye on your baby's growth is a natural concern. We all want to make sure our little ones are growing healthy and happy. When it comes to understanding if your baby is growing okay, height and weight charts come into play. Why are these growth charts so important? Well, they act as a kind of roadmap for your baby's development. They help gauge your little one's growth and can even alert you to the possibility of any developmental delays. While every child is different, doctors and pediatricians rely on standardized growth charts to assess whether a baby is developing at an appropriate rate. These charts plot a baby's length/height and weight against data from thousands of other children at each age and gender. This allows parents and doctors to spot any deviations indicating an underlying health issue. However, it's crucial to realize that baby girls and boys grow at different rates. So, when looking at those charts, make sure to differentiate between their height and weight. What are growth charts, and how are they made? Growth charts, also known as centile charts, visually represent the normal range of growth for babies based on age and sex. These charts typically plot weight on the vertical axis and height or length on the horizontal axis. Each line on the chart represents a percentile, which indicates the percentage of babies at a specific age who fall within that weight or height range. The percentile tells you how your baby's weight or height compares to other babies of the same age and sex. For example, a growth chart for boys from birth to 24 months will show the weight for age, length for age, and head circumference for age percentiles for boys in that age range. Each percentile curve represents the percentage of babies who are at or below that measurement. For example, the 50th percentile curve for weight for age means that 50% of the boys of that age weigh the same or less than that curve, and 50% weigh more. Growth charts are made by collecting and analyzing data from large samples of healthy babies from different regions and backgrounds. The data are then smoothed and adjusted to create the percentile curves that best fit the data. There are different types of growth charts, depending on the source and the purpose of the data. For example, the World Health Organization, WHO, growth charts are based on data from 6 countries, and they reflect the optimal growth of breastfed babies in ideal conditions. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC growth charts, are based on data from the United States, and they reflect the actual growth of babies in various feeding and environmental situations. Both types of growth charts are widely used and accepted by health professionals and parents. How to use growth charts, and what do they mean? Growth charts are used by pediatricians, nurses, and parents to track and assess the growth of babies from birth to 4 years. To use a growth chart, the baby's body measurements are taken at regular intervals, usually during routine health visits, and plotted on the appropriate chart for the baby's age and sex. The plotted points are then connected by a line showing the baby's growth trajectory over time. The growth trajectory is then compared with the percentile curves on the chart, which show the expected range of growth for most babies of the same age and sex. The comparison of the growth trajectory and the percentile curves can tell us whether the baby's growth is normal, too fast, too slow, or inconsistent. A normal growth pattern is when the baby's growth trajectory follows, or is close to one of the percentile curves and does not cross more than 2 percentile lines. This means that the baby is growing steadily and consistently, and within the average growth range for their age and sex. A too fast or too slow growth pattern is when the baby's growth trajectory is above or below the normal range of growth and crosses more than 2 percentile lines. This means that the baby is growing faster or slower than most babies of their age and sex, and may be at risk of being overweight, underweight, or having growth problems. An inconsistent growth pattern is when the baby's growth trajectory is erratic, does not follow any of the percentile curves, and crosses more than 2 percentile lines. This means that the baby's growth is unstable and varies widely over time, which may indicate a health issue or measurement error. What the charts measure. The two key measurements plotted on growth charts are height and weight. For height, babies are measured lying down until age 2, when standing height starts getting recorded instead. This tracks their overall size and development. For weight, how much a child weighs compared to their length/height. This indicates if they are proportionally larger, smaller, or about average. Monitoring these two factors together gives a complete picture, rather than just looking at height or weight alone. Patterns of healthy growth. For typical healthy growth, a baby's measurements will show a relatively steady curved pattern over time as they get bigger. Their point on the chart may fluctuate between percentile lines, but any major crossing of percentile lines could indicate a growth issue. It's common for newborns to lose some initial weight in the first week or two as they adjust to feeding. Then they should start gaining consistently, often crossing back over their birth weight percentile in the first 2-3 months. Growth spurts. Don't worry if your baby's growth seems to stall temporarily or accelerate rapidly for a period. It's normal for growth to have random spurts, often clustered around key developmental milestones like starting solid foods. As long as the overall long-term pattern looks healthy, with no major percentile drops or jumps, shorter fluctuations aren't concerning. Factors influencing growth rate. Genetics play a role. Like height, a baby's growth rate has a strong genetic component based on the size of the parents and other relatives. For instance, babies with two relatively short parents may plot lower on the charts even if they are growing normally. Premature babies also tend to measure smaller than charts indicate until catching up developmentally. Nutrition is key. Proper nutrition from breast milk, formula, and later solid foods is vital for fueling a baby's rapid growth and weight gain. Issues like problems with breastfeeding, formula intolerance, or lack of appetite can influence growth. Health conditions. Various illnesses or underlying conditions can lead to poor growth, weight loss, or failure to thrive if not treated properly. Examples include issues affecting the gastrointestinal tract, heart, lungs, kidneys, or hormones. When to be concerned. While every child develops differently, there are some potential red flags that may warrant discussing growth concerns with your pediatrician. These red flags include dropping percentiles. A baby dropping significantly through the percentiles over multiple checkups could indicate that their rate of growth has slowed too much. For example, going from the 50th to under the 10th percentile. Excessive weight gain loss. Rapidly crossing upward through many percentile lines could mean excessive weight gain, while plummeting percentiles may signal unhealthy weight loss or failure to grow. Way off the charts. Measurements plotting way above the 95th percentile or below the 5th percentile are considered off the charts in an unhealthy range requiring evaluation. Poor weight gain. Most newborns should gain 4 to 7 ounces per week after regaining their birth weight around 2 weeks old. Not meeting consistent milestones could be a concern. All children are unique. Try not to obsess over comparing your child's measurements too closely with friends, siblings, or growth chart ideals. As long as the overall pattern looks healthy, percentiles aren't that important. The charts are about monitoring an individual child's trajectory and development, not about achieving arbitrary ideals. A perfectly healthy child may naturally be smaller or larger than the 50th percentile. What are the limitations and cautions of growth charts? Growth charts are useful and helpful tools, but they are not perfect or definitive. They have some limitations and cautions that parents and health professionals should be aware of and consider when using them. For instance, growth charts are not intended to be used as a sole diagnostic instrument, but rather as a part of an overall health assessment for the baby. They should be interpreted in conjunction with other factors, such as the baby's birth history, feeding habits, activity level, family history, and health status. These charts are based on averages and norms and do not account for the individual variations and differences among babies. Growth charts do not reflect the genetic, ethnic, or environmental influences on the baby's growth, and they do not predict the baby's future growth or adult height. Therefore, they are not meant to compare the baby with other babies, but rather to monitor the baby's own growth over time. While nothing sparks parental anxiety like watching a baby's growth changes, growth charts are an important tool for monitoring healthy development. By understanding how to interpret these charts and tracking overall growth patterns, parents can be reassured that their child is thriving. The key is looking beyond any single data point to the long-term trend over multiple checkups. As long as measurements generally follow an upward curve trajectory without major percentile drops, a little wiggle room above or below the 50th percentile is perfectly normal. By partnering with your pediatrician, you can stay proactive about supporting your child's nutrition and identifying any potential growth issues early on. With some patience and adjustments as needed, most kids ultimately find their own unique yet healthy growth curve.